Okay, I'll call to order. The meeting we're having tonight at 6 o'clock is really a demonstration on the body camera by WaterGuard that the chief is going to come up. Chief, are you going to come up and lead this demonstration, or is Tom's going to come up? If you'll come up to the mic and walk us through this, this will be great. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can skip through here. All right. So thank everybody for their time tonight. My name is Tom Latrella. I'm with WatchGuard. Is obviously a little muffled. Everybody hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Sound good. Thank you. And I did bring a body camera that we can take a look at. This is our newest model here. We can show you this. We don't have the in-car, obviously, we can bring in here, but I can at least show you this and talk about how it works and show you some of its features. So WatchGuard was founded in 2002, and we were an independent company up until 2019. In 2019, July of 2019, Motorola Solutions purchased us wholly. So we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Motorola. And this is all we do. So, you know, sticking a number up here on the slide is great to say how many customers we have, but the point of this slide is that all we do is manufacture dash cameras and body cameras. We don't make radars, we don't make vests. We get to put all of our effort and our attention into, you know, focusing on these products. In Delaware here, we have, you know, Millsboro PD, Ocean View, South Bethany Beach, Selbyville. So we do have other customers in the area that are using a different mix of our products. And we have lots of them. So one of the things you'll see here in my slide theme is that we have lots of choices. We are, if you will, the Burger King of in-car and dash cameras and body-worn. It's not our way, it's the town's way, it's the police department's way. And so whether it's a police department of 3 cars or 100 or 1,000 officers, we have many options to fit those to scale based on the department size. We make an in-car system, we make a motorcycle camera, we do have a few different body cameras, and then we also make an interview room system. And all these systems are integrated together to work cohesively. So all of the video ends up in the same place, all of the video is linked together. Our back-end software will link all of that video together so that officers and departments can find this video easy. And you know, a neat feature here, especially as an officer who has many things to do on the job, is we synchronize the recordings of the in-car and the body-worn together. And that means if the officer activates his overhead lights, it's going to trigger his lights, which is going to trigger the in-car system. And that's a fairly common feature of in-car video. But with our system, because we're integrated with the body-worn, while the officer is wearing the body-worn camera, it's also going to activate automatically. He doesn't need to reach up and press a button or forget to record anything because it's initiated from the in-car system. So, and it works the opposite way also. So what happens is if he's wearing a body camera, and let's say he didn't activate his lights to make a recording, he's standing out here just talking to whoever, and the officer has to activate his body camera. When he activates this body camera, it's going to tell the in-car system, as long as it's within range, hey, car, go ahead and activate as well. We have a recording. And then the systems are both designed to go back in time and capture video only. In our industry, we call that pre-event. And so we can go back in time a certain amount. Most commonly, it's maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute to capture video only of what was the probable cause for the stop, or why was this camera activated. That's a fairly common feature in the industry that we see. And so again, all that being synced together, less stuff the officer has to do.
Did you say it only records video? Is there sound also?
There is sound during what we call a triggered event. So a triggered event would be, we activate the body camera, it starts recording, it's a 2-minute event, and so for that 2 minutes of the actual triggered event, there's going to be audio and video.
Okay.
That pre-event is typically video only.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. And so here we talk about how do they want to get their video and when do they want it. And we're very scalable here. So we can upload from the police department parking lot when the patrol cars come into the station. We can also upload over cellular. As long as the town has good LTE, officers can upload right from the field. And with our cloud solution, which is where ultimately the video's final home, and the final resting place of the video, that video is going to end up there, and the officers don't have to come back to the station. And so that's another great feature of all of these integrations and technologies is, in the old days of in-car video, they'd have to drive back to the station, sit in the parking lot, and sit out there, let the car run, and wait. Now, as long as the car has LTE connection, as soon as they're done with the recording, the system does a check and makes sure it has good LTE, and it says, okay, upload our video. And it's there and ready. And so not only is that good to keep the officers from having to go back to the station and sit in the parking lot, but if the chief or somebody on the admin staff needs to review the video, it's there much quicker than it used to be in the days of manual upload. And here also, it's where they want their video. Nowadays, most common, and y'all may hear this just in almost every industry, cloud is the way a lot of agencies are going. For law enforcement, we use Microsoft Azure Government, which are dedicated CJIS compliant data centers that are only used for law enforcement. So the feds, state, local, county sheriffs, only those agencies can store their data or video, in this case there. And that's where all of our video is housed. The other advantage of having cloud is that direct to upload over cellular that I talked about in the last slide, that happens with cloud. Whereas if you have, storage on the premises of the station, we don't have that functionality. So, any questions so far? No, good. All right. This slide is a little redundant. It talks about the last slide I had in a little more detail, but we'll talk about this one here. So, things we do to help the officers and help the departments, beyond just capturing video, because, all cameras' job is to capture video, but it's after the video is captured, what are the things that, the tools accessible for the officers and the departments to utilize all this footage when it needs released. Video redaction software, that is something that we currently offer and is coming to our cloud solution, and that'll be included. Smart device, so if you have an iPhone, we can link the phone to the body camera for review purposes and things like that, so they can tag events. Officers will have some limited capability if the department allows it to make changes on the body camera. One of the things on this camera that we can talk about is, if you notice when officers wear body cameras, if you look at the side of me, the camera is pointed up. But what we do inside electronically in this V300 camera is we electronically adjust the lens down and forward. And so one of the things officers can do is link their phone to their V300, adjust it to be a down 5 degree or a down 8 degree, so that the camera's looking forward and not at the clouds. That's just one functionality of that smart app. And then the middle slide there, record after the fact. That is unique to WatchGuard. And what that is it's a patented technology that lives in all of our systems, whether it's the body-worn or the in-car, and it's a time machine. It's going to allow the department, if their policy allows it, to go back in time and capture video, typically it's video only, of events that didn't get recorded for whatever reason. And so, y'all could probably think of all kinds of scenarios where an officer's behind a car, maybe there's a busted taillight, and he's about ready to initiate a traffic stop, and he gets a call to run across town. And he leaves that car and goes across town. He never activated his lights. He never got any footage of that car. And then the next day, there's a bolo that comes out, be on the lookout for that car. And the officer says, hey, Chief, I was behind that guy yesterday, and it was, over on 5th Street. The chief or an admin staff can go out to the car and initiate a record after the fact trigger. Essentially, we're looking for a time window of a start and an end. So the chief or an admin would say, well, when did that occur? Well, it was yesterday between 1 and 1:30. In the car, you can initiate that time window. It will create the event as if the officer actually started a recording at 1 o'clock and stopped it at 1:30. Minus audio. There's typically never audio in these non-triggered events. And then capture that video. The same can be done on body cameras. So if for some reason this body camera is on, and I won't set a recording while we're doing this, but let's say it's on, but I never pressed record, and something happens, and I don't ever get a chance to press record. Typically within a shift or a day, the cameras can be retrieved off the officer, taken back to the station and docked, and it's a very similar process to the in-car. We give it a window, the system checks and say, was there video available? Was the camera still on and not recording? It says yes, give me the video. And so we joke and say that's the time machine, but it's our patented record after the fact technology. So that has been huge recently. In the midst of everything that's been going on, we've had departments that never had that feature turned on, and all of a sudden would call our customer service and say, we have that feature, right? And we say, yeah, it's included in all of our devices. Great, please turn it on for me. We want that feature. So we've seen a huge spike in departments enabling that feature. Any questions on that?
How far back can you go?
Great question. On the in-car, it's typically a few days. And it's dependent on a lot of things, like how many videos have been already recorded on the system. Because we're always recording on a loop, similar to a closed circuit TV, right? We're always recording video, and we're only keeping these triggered, captured events. And so on an in-car, we say a few days. On the body worn, we're comfortable saying it can be up to at least a shift, and sometimes maybe a day. And the reason that number is variable is because when the camera's on, like this, but not recording, we're in that loop. And so if an officer keeps his camera on for a 12-hour shift, and then turns his camera off at night when he docks it at home to charge or whatever the case is, we've only got 2 days worth of 12-hour, in that loop. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
it's a hard question to answer, but I could give you guesstimates.
You mentioned the audio, the max is 2 minutes. Is that correct?
So in that pre-event, is that what you're referring to, how we go back in time?
Just in general, you said that audio you can do for as long as you want, but the video goes as long as you want, but the audio is 2 minutes long.
So let me explain it like this. So let's separate audio and video for a second.
Okay.
We're always recording video on a loop.
Yep.
And only when events are triggered by an officer are we capturing audio for the entire duration of the event. Now video is going to be captured 2 different ways, actually 3 different ways. We're going to capture video in a triggered event, which is a start and a stop press activated by the officer, either on the button or in the car. We're going to do a record after the fact and go back in time and capture video, right? And then we also, all videos are going to have pre-event configured by the department, which is also video only. So we're really only capturing audio during a triggered event. We're not always recording audio.
Now, that's my question. So you said the maximum is 2 minutes long?
Well, so there's no maximum on audio. Audio is either off unless it's a triggered event or on all the time. Now, 99.9% of our departments all over the country only capture audio, this is their choice, during a triggered event. Because there's too many times where a camera might be in a person's home, at home, or in an office, or a private area that's there's an expectation of privacy. So we actually allow the department to set that, but most common is only allowing audio during a triggered event. The 2-minute example I gave, and that might be what you're referring to, and I know I go a little fast because I'm a bit of a techie guy and I get going, so I apologize. The 2 minutes is a generic time snap of going back to 2 minutes before I press the button and capturing video only, no audio. Does that make more sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And sorry for the confusion there.
It's all good.
Any other questions on that? That make more sense the second time? And we do integrate with other systems. So if, for example, a department already has Motorola, a CAD or record system or RMS running in the station, we can automatically integrate with those systems and share information like a case number or internal numbers that the department already has. If the department doesn't have any Motorola CAD or RMS system, we can integrate, but it's more of a customized process where we have to build some custom modules, and that's an optional thing that departments can opt to choose to purchase or not. It is included if they're Motorola, because our systems all talk together. If it's not, we can opt to quote that and integrate. So. And then this is one of the newest things, and this was an early product that, I'll share wasn't great coming out of the gate, so it's not something that has been very popular. But the point of the slide and what I'll share with you is that We were acquired by Motorola in July of 2019, and within 6 months, one of the other Motorola Solutions companies, which is Vigilant, and they make license plate recognition, we share some similar technologies. We're all in the video business. WatchGuard doesn't do license plate recognition, and Vigilant doesn't make body cameras. But Motorola said, hey, you guys play in the same space together and work at the same departments. Why don't you guys get together and see what you can come up with? And so what they were able to do is take our front-facing camera from the in-car system and retrieve the video live and feed it through the Vigilant license plate recognition database. And again, this is an optional purchase that the departments can choose to purchase. But we can grab that video feed, scan a license plate, and automatically run it through the national database that Vigilant runs to see if a car is wanted or not. And so the intention was to be able to, be a few car lengths behind a car and capture a plate and have an officer know if that guy's wanted before he pulls them over or as he's pulling them over. One of the things we learned is our camera, the megapixel isn't as great as a Vigilant camera, and so we need to be really close to that car. So the point wasn't to highlight a product that didn't work as great as they thought, more so to the fact that they wanted us to work together, and we're now continuing always to work with these other Motorola companies to make products work, if that makes sense. And then again, a little more about the WatchGuard that you get back in Texas, which is where our headquarters is we have a 24/7 call center. So if the departments have an issue, you call and you actually get the call center in Texas. You may sound like you called and woke a guy up if it's 1 a.m., and you probably did, but he will answer, and you will get a person at our call center. And with advanced replacement hardware, one of the things we do is, with what I quoted the chief with the no-fault warranty on this body camera, if this thing gets run over by a car, shot at, stepped on, smashed, hit by a train, you name it, anything that happens to this camera, we don't ask questions. You call our call center, say I have a broken V300, we're going to ship you a new one in a box with a return label. You sweep the pieces into the baggie and send the old camera back to us, and that's done. And so we do that in an advanced replace fashion because we know that these departments depend on these cameras and they need them back sooner than later. So we don't need the broken one before we're going to get you the replacement. You can send us the broken one after. Vista components we talk about are field replaceable. Vista is our first generation body camera. V300 is our latest, which is what we showed the chief here. And so some of the things, and I'll touch on a couple of the V300 product features, but Vista, we did make components that could be replaced by officers or by departments so that the whole camera didn't have to come back to Texas to get worked on. Right. We made sure things could be field replaced, like batteries and screens and such. So all of our products are represented by individuals. So we live in our territories. I cover Virginia, West Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, and DC. And we live in our territories. I live in Virginia, fairly central. And so we are always actively within our territories visiting. So we don't want to sell over the phone. We want to make sure we're here in person to show you product, etc. So online training is done at no cost. And so we have lots of different online training modules from officer level to admin level and everywhere in between. And that's unlimited. We also do on-site training at deployments. So one of the things we quoted the chief here was an on-site deployment. So you will get a person, we actually send a technician up from Texas, and he will sit down and make sure every car works and everything's rolling before he leaves. He'll train officers, he'll come in and do morning, afternoon, and evening shifts a couple times a week. Basically make sure that everything's working and the system is fully functional before we leave. And we do offer a premier support at an additional cost where you would get a dedicated representative back in Texas. So typically reserved for really large departments, Houston PDs and Detroit PDs and such. So, and then if y'all have any questions on that, I'll go through a few of the actual V300 features.
Any questions?
Yeah, where are these cameras made?
These are made at our Allen, Texas facility,
Okay.
as is our in-car product. So.
Any other questions? Okay,
All right, so V300, completely waterproof, IP67, so it is water submersible, 3 feet for 30 minutes, so it can be completely submerged in water. And body cameras, the Achilles heel of almost all body cameras is battery life. officers work 10, 12-hour shifts, and they need this thing to last. And so what we were able to do with V300 was include a field replaceable battery. So every officer typically will get the battery that comes with the unit, plus an additional battery that he can charge in his patrol car while he's on shift. And there's no reason his battery ever needs to be dead, because he's got two, enough to last 24 hours. Another thing unique to V300 that I did share earlier was that adjustable turret, so that we're looking forward, not looking up at the sky. The system is also going to record in, and what I talked about earlier, lots of choices for the departments. We can record in 480p resolution, which is a lower level standard definition. We can record in 720p, or we can record in 1080p, and we leave that up to the department, so they can choose the resolution they want. An ultra-wide dynamic range lens is just tech speak for the lens in here wants to see the way the human eye does, but not better. And so that means in very low light conditions, or if it's pitch black, this camera doesn't see better than the human eye. But if there's a street light or a flashlight or something creating ambient light, much the same way that our human eye adjusts, the camera does the same thing.
Councilman Henderson, did you have a question?
Yeah. What's the difference in storage rate between, say, 460 to 1080?
Great question. So a 720 video and a 480 video, there's about a 3x difference between the two. And then when you go from a 480 to 720, a 720 is 3 times larger than a 480, and the 1080 is twice as big as the 720.
So
So
are
you're
we
talking
talking
about a 5x
exponential?
difference. Yeah.
Are we
Now, a
talking
lot-
about 5x or 6x?
It would be, I think, a 5x, because, and it's
if
probably
it's-
not exact, because it's a resolution of megapixels
Is-
width by,
It's times 3 times 2.
correct.
Right.
So yeah, you're right.
Okay, so the follow-up. So with a, say you had a 15-minute exchange and it took up 2 gigs at 480, now you're at 12 gigs for 15 minutes at 1080. And that builds up. So the question is, what's your experience with the different resolutions, say 480? I mean, that's the old standard for high definition, right? But now it's 4K. But what do you see any kind of degradation or any kind of problems with evidence or with presentation or recall with those types of display?
Really, I think the biggest difference is, I believe 720 is as close to the human eye's resolution as possible. 1080 is slightly better, but I don't know if there are any actual fact studies that say that. 480 is a little less. So 720, I would say, would be the most popular that we see departments use. And we base a lot of our information just on what we hear other departments or what we deploy other departments. 720 being as close to the human eye as possible seems to be the most popular, and it's not as large as a 1080 too.
So that, so you have resolution covered. What about, what kind of hertz is it displayed at? Like, that matters with, that makes a difference in resolution as well. The sampling rate, whether it's 60, 120, 240 hertz, because that affects storage and it affects useful data. If you can't see it, or if it's blurry, or if it's indeterminate, then it won't hold up. So
Sure.
I'm interested in what type of the speed at which it records as far as the hertz.
Okay. Off the top of my head, I actually don't know, but I'll find out and
Okay.
get the chief that information, and we'll make sure he gets it back to you.
'Cause it all, terabytes will build up, and that's a determinant. It determines the cost, the risk, or the cost factor and the efficiency factor of how you store it.
Sure. Yep, and that's actually one of the reasons we let departments choose, because some departments, before we had cloud, it was a lot of on-premise solutions where they were very limited on what they had to store. And so departments would say, hey, we don't have a lot of room. We keep videos longer than other departments. We want to lower that to 480 because we're going to save, a third space. So that's one of the reasons we allow flexibility for that. And that can be changed on the fly. So if a department said, hey, we're going to start with 720, we're going to see how these things store video for the first 6 months, because every department's got a slightly different time in the field, length of their shifts, how many traffic stops they do. Some are, more heavily involved in traffic, which are shorter stops. There's a lot of variables. One of the things I always recommend is reach out to departments around to gauge that, to get, an equal number based on officers.
Yeah.
Because that's going to give you a better information, a better idea than me kind of guessing.
Thank you. I don't want to trample on your time, but
No,
it would be something that I'd be interested in hearing from the chief about what his preferences would be. And maybe later on in the meeting, or during the regular meeting, maybe we can address that when you're making your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes.
So, I guess my question is similar. Technology tends to jump rapidly, especially nowadays. How often, or is it uncommon for this model to need an upgrade, or you have a newer model come out? Does that make any sense? Like, do you guys, in your experience with the company, how many years go by before, hey, you might want to get a newer model?
Sure. Good question, and I'll cover each in-car and body worn a little separately. For the in-car portion, we've had product out at some state agencies since 2011, and it's still current. And the good thing, kind of the double-edged sword of technology, is the good thing is a lot of things can be updated with firmware.
Sure.
And so our in-car solution has ramped up and gotten better as time has gone by with strictly just firmware and maybe just a different front camera head. But it's a DVR-based system, and so that can be updated with firmware. So, I can share having state departments that have been deployed with our in-car since 2011. That gives you an idea of, 9 years. And then on body worn, just historically with our cameras, our Vista body camera was our first go at a body camera. We launched that first one in 2014, and we still have departments now that are running the Vista body camera. 6-7 years later, V300 just came out in the summer. So I think realistically, the car you're going to see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years out of it. A body camera, because it does take a little bit more of a beating, it gets a little bit more abused, being a mobile device like a phone. 5 years is probably what you're going to see with a body camera. But even then, we can do a lot with firmware inside of a body camera.
Thank you.
Great question. Yeah, in fact, with our Vista body camera, we didn't offer a 5-year warranty because it was our first go at a body camera. We said, hey, we don't know how long this thing is going to last in the field. With this camera, we do offer a 5-year no-fault. And one of the things we saw with Motorola acquiring us was WatchGuard was a fairly small, privately held company in the grand scheme of things, and we didn't have the ability to do advanced life cycle testing, basically run this thing through a 5-year simulator to see how long it will last. With Motorola, they actually put their name on it, their sticker on it, and said, we're going to run this thing through the gamut like we do with our radios and really put the pressure on this thing to make sure it will last. So we're more comfortable with this than we were with Vista.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned batteries, field replaceable batteries. What is there a low battery alarm, an audible alarm, or how does the officer know it's time to change?
Great question. On the screen, so all these cameras have an actual LCD screen that's going to give you a myriad of information. How many videos are stored, the officer's name, things like that. One of the things that's also on there is when there's a low battery, it will warn. And then if the officer or the department allows it, we offer either a haptic or a beep feedback. That's used for other functions as well, like a recording start and a recording stop. So yeah, they would get a notification, as well as we do an on-screen notification. So let's say that this camera goes out in the field and the officer doesn't have a spare battery, and it's in the middle of an incident and then the camera dies. Well, we're going to show, before the camera actually goes dead, on the screen, on the closed circuit feedback that you see, like when you watch body camera videos that are released, you see things like officer name and department name. We call that metadata. And so with that metadata, we're going to also include and show low battery.
Are you finding that most departments get a body camera per officer?
That seems to be most popular,
Okay,
and more so now with COVID,
okay,
because they don't want this thing shared between other officers.
okay. Interesting.
And on the V300, that's really it. If y'all don't have any other questions, we can see if the chief wants to follow up or not.
We have about 15 minutes, Chief. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Did you want to share anything at this time?
What are you trying to say?
I like to be upfront and honest,
Maybe
right?
just to assist the chief just a little bit, just to remind the council, this budget year, we did budget body cameras. That was something the chief talked about. It was deliberated by the council this budget year, and it was put in. The details there were, though, we budgeted grant funds, and the chief was going to go out and try to get grant funds this year. One of the reasons why we're bringing this forward, several reasons, and the chief will talk about this, he's been going through his due diligence now with his command staff on body cameras for about the last year,
Yep.
9 months. So he's evaluated several systems. This is probably one of the systems that is at the top of his short list. I don't want to speak for the chief, but one of the other factors, the reason why we're bringing this to you for consideration kind of in the middle of a budget cycle, is that the existing in-car system is reaching its end of life. So we're facing replacement of the existing in-car system. This integrated system provides the added benefit of, if you're going to replace them, do we go ahead and kind of go into this with having the integrated system, adding the body cameras, replacing the in-car system. The structure here that's proposed is a lease for 5 years. Now, they touched on that. The representative did. And, so it's a lease. It has a payment arrangement, so on and so forth that we'd work through. But maybe to answer one of Councilman Henderson's questions a little bit, or the chief will talk about that, the way they've structured their lease is unique in that you can go in with a set amount of data capability, so many terabytes that you purchase, and then it's a pay-as-you-go. But then should you, as you deploy cameras, as you set your policies, as you store your data, and you monitor it, in year 1, 2, or 3, if you decide we need to go unlimited, that's the best decision for the city, then we can make that move during that and go to unlimited storage at that increased cost, and whatever the best for the budgetary purposes at that point is. Did I sum that up pretty well, Chief?
Did a great job.
Okay.
My
I rest my case.
understanding is, though, that once you upgrade, you cannot downgrade.
Yes, sir, you are absolutely correct. And you likely, once you're into that situation, you see, okay, we're bumping up against this number, or we've done an analysis and the pay-as-you-go is costlier than the unlimited, you would obviously want to go that way. And I don't think you would really ever go back. I mean, I don't see your data storage getting less unless
Right.
some tremendous changes occurred.
Right.
I guess the only other thing we want to talk about, and the chief can really, the chief serves almost statewide on boards for grants, and he's really in tune with what the state of Delaware is doing. There could be at some point where the state helps municipal and other agencies with these, but, in speaking and asking him what his experience tells him, we're not seeing any assistance coming in the short term. So the discussion between the chief and myself is, when do we move forward? Do we wait any longer? And I don't want to speak for the chief, but I think he feels like this is something that needs to be moved forward sooner rather than later. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that or not, Chief.
Chief, the town of Millsboro went to this?
Yes, they actually have had this for how many years, Tom?
2013, they first.
Yeah.
All of their officers have it, and
And we've actually assisted them with an internal affairs investigation, and they shot me a link. I opened it up. We had all the information so we could conduct that investigation. That's what happens when you have a municipality and certain cases go out of house. It's very easy, very simple. Everything was in one location on one link. And that's the same thing that would happen with the Attorney General's office. In this particular case with an integrated system, if we have 4 officers and 4 body-worn cameras, and they're all out there doing something different, we go in and we highlight each one of those cases. It pulls it all into one case, and you can see a view of all the different angles. And not only that, but when we go back to the station, because part of this contract was for an interview room camera system as well that he talked about, would be integrated and upgraded into that link. And on top of that, any video from the station, or surveillance video at the station, from parking lot, down the hallways and the prison, or in the, excuse me, in the detention pod areas, will all be integrated, uploaded into the cloud. An email will be sent to the Attorney General to open it up, and they have everything. It's going to cut down on the manpower to be able to manage this. Because as you can imagine, right now, we have an overwhelming amount of manpower to be able to just go back and get the footage from the department, from the parking lot, from the hallways, from the intoxilizer or the cells, and the in-car cameras. And none of that's cloud-based. It's manual, and it takes a lot of manpower. So this is just another option that we have. And Charles was absolutely correct. The state is looking at a vault system, I believe is what it's called, vault for body-worn cameras only. They may come up with funding in the next 1 to 2 years. It's in the talks now. It could happen. It might not happen. There's no guarantee if it will. But it will just be for body-worn cameras. And when you have an integrated system, it makes no sense, because what happened is you got twice the work now. Now you got to manage it from the cloud, and you still got to go back to your in-car camera and get that information as well. And you can't integrate the two together. I'm not in support of it. If they're going to do it, they need to offer different, at least maybe make it a package that, you know, departments can pick up the difference or integrate it together, offset the cost. So that's some recommendations that I've made to the state.
Over the years, we've talked about technology upgrades and getting ready for this. Are we in a place now with technology to handle this? We are? Thank you.
So I will add one thing to that. For this system, Gary and Tricia have done a great job getting you guys ready for the virtual server system that you're going to here. The work's already been done. It's a very little, I think, 1 hour to 2 hours of labor, if I'm right. Is that correct? To get a server up and running, to have the redundancy for the cloud system. So we don't have to pay them to do that. That's picked up by the city. So, and that's just quite a bit of savings, actually, because of the work that's already been done, money that's already been spent. And the other thing is we're able to run our own wires and things of that nature for the interview rooms, another good savings that we can have. And right now, we don't have an interview room recording system. It's down. It's not operable. So we're going to have to do something there. And Charles was right. We set aside money in our operating account to replace a in-car camera that we currently have. And I think that's somewhere around $8,000 or so. And so I've asked for this particular session, for unbudgeted expenditures, we would need about $15,000. And what my proposal is that I go back before the Violent Crime Board and ask them to reallocate the balance of the first payment from what we currently have allocated to body-worn cameras. I didn't build it in the grant initially because this everything going on, it just took longer. And I didn't want to put it in there to get it and then us not get it approved from council.
Right.
And if it's more than 20% of the total amount, and it's a $50,000 grant, then they may not approve me to go back and we'll be stuck. So it's easier to ask for permission to reallocate to go to something as important as body-worn cameras and probably get that approval than to ask them to, oh, I don't want to do that now, because that probably would be off the table. So that's why we have to go back before that board. So even if you approve it tonight, for the unbudgeted request of the $15,000, keeping in mind that we've already budgeted 8, so really it's more like 7. It's not budgeted, just reallocate 8 of it.
Okay.
I still got to get the board's approval from the Violent Crime Fund to reallocate what we budgeted for some other things.
Okay.
And I'm fairly confident we can do that.
Okay. Does anybody have questions for the chief before we break for our regular meeting? No? Okay. Tom, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank
Well
you.
done. Thank you, Chief. We'll see you back here at 7. Okay, with that, we'll break and we'll come back at 7.